The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposed ideas in the mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. Francis Scott Fitzgerald.
Dear friends, I'd love to hear your thoughts, your critiques, your ideas, and your reflections on the material we've already covered in previous videos. Also, if you've enjoyed any of the videos, please don't forget to like them, and maybe even share them with your friends. And of course, I'd really appreciate it if you subscribe to my channel, New Paradigm of Life, so you don't miss what's coming next. But for now,
Outcomes of Part 2.
This part is finished. Before you stands a puzzle half assembled, but the large empty space in the middle still prevents you from seeing the full picture. It is there, in that white spot, that you will find the answers to the most interesting questions. In the second part, we clarified for ourselves that
life is discrete and perceives the universe through discrete events. Life perfects itself because of the fundamental internal contradiction, me-universe. From this, we derive the fundamental property of all living, subjectivity. Life is hierarchical. The higher we climb this hierarchy, the more complex models of the universe we deal with. The context of any subjective entity represents a certain ratio between individuality and uniformity, and we established a law. The greater the share of individuality among representatives of a given form of life, the more developed the model of the universe they adapt. We also answered for ourselves the question of where life comes from at birth, and where it goes after death. It turns out birth, with subsequent development, and death with subsequent degradation, always affect only the outermost level of the hierarchy of life for that given subjective entity, and lower levels continue, successfully or in vain, to maintain their homeostasis. Phenomena, texts, of higher levels of the life hierarchy cannot be adequately interpreted on lower levels. In other words, each level of the life hierarchy has its own limit of cognition. Artificial intelligence lacks subjectivity. Therefore, it cannot enter into either competitive or cooperative relationships with humanity. And finally, we concluded that matter is not divided into living and non-living, but is entirely composed only of subjective entities of different levels of the life hierarchy. The most primitive subjective entities, those that adapted the simplest model of the universe is simply everything that is not me, are most likely either particles of dark matter, if such exist, or neutrinos. Subjective entities of higher levels of the life hierarchy include all elementary particles, nucleons, nuclei, molecules, proteins, cells, organisms, quasi-organisms, and so on.
all these are interesting conclusions, but for now they still hang in the air for you. Most likely, the questions "so what?" and "what is this all for?" continue to irritate the reader. In the section Appendices, we will move on to the final stage of assembling our puzzle, and our paradigm of the great life should take its final shape for you